Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force. When the powerful ally it is, life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Now come on, you can, monkey boy.
Great Scott. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with now.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
You know, I can't help but be bothered that the Frighteners thing is a little off center, but I couldn't fit it on there any other way. It wouldn't work.
Doesn't that happen like half the time though? Is that
Actually,
nothing
no.
really fits?
I usually have very good selection of different posters, but that was the one that worked today because of the coloring and this and that. The other ones are too light and didn't quite work. But it was long. But it's like I turned down the obsessive compulsive disorder in me, and I said, okay, just you're not gonna mess it. Leave it. It's off center. Live with it because we're here. It's Saturday Night Drive-In, and we're here to have a good time and talk movies and hopefully entertain you fine folks out there. We're happy to have you guys with us on this Saturday evening. Jed, how are you?
I'm great, actually. I'm excited to talk about this movie. I think it's a very unique one for us because of my thoughts on it. Conflicted's not the right word because I did absolutely enjoy it, but I have complicated opinions about it. So I think this will be a really good discussion. Won't devolve into Golden Child or anything like that. It's not one of those weeks. I think this will be generally a positive stream, but with some major critiques at the same time.
I think I might know where your critiques are going to be because I've seen this movie a lot over the years. This is the first time I've actually watched it owning my own copy because it's been a TV thing or a rented thing throughout my life. But I got it last year for Christmas because it was on reduced price sale, like $6-7, something like that for a 15th anniversary director's cut. It's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna grab that shit. And so I've seen it a lot. And I didn't watch the director's cut. I watched the normal cut because I didn't tell you to watch the director's cut. But it only had
I didn't even know there was a director's cut.
I didn't either until I was looking at like, wait, okay, it's 13 minutes of extra footage, but I didn't tell Jed. So I'm just going to watch the regular one that I've always watched. I'm not going to throw a wrench in that one. But it's a Peter Jackson movie. So it's, and from my opinion, this one, it's well cast. I like. I think everybody does either a really good job. There are some standouts. I mean, to me, some of them are, in fact, perfect for their roles, and they do the complete hammiest, just scene chewing they can do. And others are just kind of there doing normal stuff. But overall, I always enjoy this movie, and I thought it was. Listen, I'm not really a Halloween guy. Spooky season, not really my thing. I don't really care about it at all. But I figured for this year, for a Halloween movie, it would be nice to do a kind of a comedy spooky thing. This isn't a horror movie. It's kind of horror comedy. It's horror comedy with stuff. Now, when I was young and I first saw this, and the Reaper appears, like, oh shit, that thing's cool. It's spooky, it's scary, it's jumping around. And then you go on, and once you see it enough times, like, okay, I'm not so much more, but it's fun. It's fun. But it's a fun little movie, and I'm glad you liked it. I'm always glad you like the random shit I decide to show you for the first time, because I hate it when you don't. I don't want to fight, at least not fight. But anyway, hail and howdy to everybody across both the chats. We are happy to have you here. Hit those like buttons, subscribe to the channels, and we will go forward from now. Okay, so 1994, Peter Jackson. And you realize I was watching the credits. It's his entire crew, the same people that worked on Lord of the Rings,
especially Fran Waltz. Yeah, a lot of people in common. I don't know where it was filmed though. Was it filmed in New Zealand like he normally does?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I couldn't tell by the scenery. Most of it was, sets and houses and stuff like
probably
that.
Canada or some shit like that.
I could buy that.
I mean, I could look it up in a second, but I mean, it was so Peter Jackson, his whole crew, and we realized this was made in 93, 94. So he's literally only about 2 years out of starting the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because they filmed all that back to back over a 2-year period and was first releasing it in 98, 99. So he literally was on the doorstep of basically doing his
Bound between the two of them, or was Bound before this? That's his other famous movie from the 90s.
You know what? I'll look it up right now. I'll look it up. Peter.
I think Bound he did very quickly, so I could believe it was slotted in between this and Lord of the Rings. But yeah, he's very close to Lord of the Rings, because they started filming in 99, like you said. So, and the pitching process took forever. According to the story, he was originally pitching 2 films instead of 3. And then the New Line Cinema guy's like, isn't there 3 books? Let's do 3. And he said he nearly passed out hearing those few words.
Okay, so Frighteners is 96. This is 96. No, he went from this right to Lord of the Rings.
Makes sense.
And released Fellowship in 2001.
Having worked with Michael J. Fox was probably a good boost to his career to justify the Lord of the Rings to a certain extent. So,
and then everything since then has either been very fantasy oriented or Lord of the Rings. When did he do Bound? Bound isn't even listed on here.
Bound? It should be. It was early 90s.
Early 90s.
1996.
No, I only see Jack Brown Genius in 96. Oh wait, no, these are his producers titles. Derp, not director. Derp. Okay, it loaded up for some reason. It loaded up director. Okay, let's try that again. 96. He still went right into Lord of the Rings. 96, 94, Heavenly Creatures, 92, Dead Alive. No, it's still not listed here under director. Maybe writer.
I've heard him attached to that film, so I don't. Maybe he wasn't. But it doesn't matter. His career really started with Lord of the Rings, obviously, but this was a good stepping stone to reach there.
Yeah, because you look at the cast, he's got a really good selection of quality character actors and people who are good film roles. Because of course you have Michael J. Fox. This is mid-90s. This is peak Michael J. Fox. He's doing this. He's doing Spin City. He's at top of the world. It's shortly before we learn the diagnosis of Parkinson's, and he starts to taper off his career. But I think it proved. I think Frighteners, I mean, just to go a little tangential discussion, because we're talking Peter Jackson, so I think it's okay because he directed the movie. It showed that he could work with a very well-rounded cast, and he can control them all and get them to perform well in everything. And also with veteran characters, because Jeffrey Combs, we love Jeffrey Combs. He is
Which
great.
one was he?
He was the FBI agent. He's okay. He played Wayoon, DS9. He's Jeffrey Combs. He's a great character actor in Star Trek. We love him. He's great. He lost nerd points. I'm sorry. Anyway, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it was the 90s, man. I'm not super versed on the 90s actors' names.
But Jeffrey Combs, great character actor, does a lot of stuff.
He was the weirdest part of this movie. I was getting major Jim Carrey vibes from him.
But that's the thing. Jeffrey Combs can do weird. He can do out there. He could he has a lot of range. He can do super serious and he can just do super crazy. So he's a great character actor. You had Don Cheadle, not Don Cheadle, not Don
You
Cheadle.
mixed up the black guys. Racist.
I meant Chi McBride. Sorry, Chi McBride. Chi McBride, who at the time had done a lot of side character stuff. And then, of course, next to Jeffrey Combs, my standout favorite, Jake frickin' Busey, who just taps into the genes he got from his dad to do crazy. So you had a lot of these guys who are big character actor personalities, and Peter Jackson handled them. And of course, he was able to work well with Michael J. Fox, which I think was a big deal because Michael J. Fox, as we said, this was his peak time of his career. And I'm sure it was nothing but a positive experience for everybody. And it propelled him because a year later, boom, we're working on Lord of the Rings. And here we go. And Peter Jackson has his own section in the director pantheon because of what he did with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's absolutely impressive. Another aspect of Frighteners that I think helped justify him helming Lord of the Rings to the studios were the special and visual effects. I think they were outstanding.
They stand up.
They absolutely. There was a few like the Reaper version of the villain, I think, is a little iffy at some point, but the ghost effects themselves when they're in their blue forms is incredible, and all the surfaces moving in the house and whatnot, the things pressing out of the walls, those effects look incredible. They're obviously a combination of practical and special effects, but they're really good for the 90s, and a lot of them hold up today. So I think that was a good audition for the heavy special effects and visual effects burden that he would have to carry in Lord of the Rings.
I think what it is it showed off Peter Jackson's attention to detail. He wants to make sure everything lines up, especially for one of the examples when Jake Busey, I suddenly forget his character's name, possesses the painting and is choking out the doctor chick, and Frank Bannister, Michael J. Fox, goes around behind it, and there's nothing there. It's just it, but you still see the indentation of the painting choking her, and then he rips it out and slams. It works, and it's the little things that make something work, because when you see the little things, you're able to just get into it more. You're able to invest yourself. You're not thinking so hard. You're just along for the ride. And you pointed out the ghost effects, they are really well done because they account for every little environmental engagement.
Yeah, and they interact with the environment. I'm sure ghosts prior to this kind of were very stagnant, moved in straight lines, didn't pass through many things. But no, they interact with everything, sometimes going in and out of people regularly, in and out of doors, walls. It's so vibrantly interactive that it feels real more than what I would have expected from the mid-90s.
And one of my favorite things when it comes to the ghosts is the visual effect, the visual appearance of them, how you see what it looks like to be a lingering spirit. The neglected husband of the doctor who gets aced and then starts to follow Frank around for the first act. You watch him literally as the ectoplasm begins to degrade. He goes from looking mostly normal with a couple of frozen sweat stains to literally peeling apart right before he gets ganked by Reaper. And he's showing it, and it's I appreciate it. Like,
there's a lot of attention to detail and the evolution.
There's meaning.
You can't confuse the scenes. There's absolutely a progress to all of these effects, and it's beautifully done.
There's meaning to the creation of the type of characters, and that's something that we now associate with Peter Jackson. He wants you to make sure that the world you're watching feels lived in, that there is an effect, there's a cause and effect, that these characters are actually going through everything. Because you watch, just to talk about Lord of the Rings for a second, which we have on this channel or on this show already before, he doesn't forget damage, battle damage, and stuff like that. Because at one point, when the Reaper is trying to get to Magda, the bitch reporter, when Frank, where he's driving the crazy, the Reaper tears through the car and the scythe blade is cutting on Frank's chin, the wound is there for the rest of the movie. They don't forget about the wound. And I appreciate that.
It's such a small thing, but it's often not done in modern films that we just have to appreciate it. Like you're saying, just point it out and go, wow, they cared back in the day.
I mean, how many times in current day media, when we watch something, especially we just talked about Rings of Power, guys receive damage. Fine. A minute later, no
disappearing
wounds.
Knives.
Yeah. So it just shows attention to detail helps with immersion. And when immersion is nearly complete, we can just enjoy the movie. Enjoy the movie. So let's set the stage. So here we are in name of town. I don't remember. Sorry. I don't remember. I want to say Westview, but I know that's not it.
Yeah, wrong franchise.
Yeah, wrong franchise. Where there are a streak of mysterious deaths happening. No one wants to say murder, mysterious deaths. People are just dying of heart attacks. And we come across Frank Bannister, played by Michael J. Fox, who looks at first to be just a charlatan, trying to prey on people's, what's a good word?
Paranoia,
their vulnerability after the death of a loved one. And it looks like he's a fake paranormal investigator who's just trying to eke out a living. And we quickly learn throughout. This is what I like about one of the things I do like about the movie. It's the first, second, third acts all well structured, and it amps up properly. You get your information dumps in the first act. Done well, not just crap exposition. And you know how it works at certain points? You get the exposition and they overlay it with scenes. So, like when you get the backstory of the death of his wife, you get it overlaid with the scene. And it's not such a trial and bore to sit through because you're watching the event happen. I'm okay with that. So you get the information dumps and we learn eventually that Frank he's a real psychic. And he actually has spirit helpers, ghosts, who create paranormal activity that he can then literally grift off of. It is a grift. Let's say you're wrong. It may be real, but it's a total grift.
Oh, it's 100% a grift. And that's one of the things I like about his character is he's a complicated man, but he's not necessarily a good man. This isn't some hero character like Van Helsing where it's like he's going to do what needs to be done and he's, all in on it. He's a real charlatan is kind of the best way to put it because yes, he does have these psychic abilities, but everything he does is fake and it is predatory. Like, I don't blame the editor for not liking him because, he's showing up at funerals, taking advantage of bereaved individuals and causing these situations for them. Like when he fake possesses the couple at the doctor's house. And
that's just to get out of the bill. That was just to get out of the bill because he fucked up.
And then when he did it with the rich woman and her kids, though, that was a real example of, I understand why he's still broke because he's really bad at it.
He's not good.
I can just the biggest mistake he makes is, especially with that scene in particular, is how he leaves his business cards. He gave the baby, or he had his ghost give the baby his business card so that they would call him. That just puts suspicion on him. If I were that lady, I'd be like, my baby's holding a business card of a psychic detective right after a ghost incident. I'm going to suspect him right away. That's just dumb. Absolutely just retarded.
Not to mention his gear is ridiculous. The little camera and the little thing that supposedly sucks up the ghost and puts a little
and the nonsense he says, just the word salad of, oh my god, this is a level 3 possession with and he's just saying random shit.
I mean, let's contrast it with Ghostbusters. Okay. And before they're in full proton pack with traps and PKE meter gear, when Venkman goes to Dana's apartment for the first time after she goes to them, and he walks in there, and all he's got is the little spray thing, and he's walking around just spraying the room, and he's doing his Venkman shtick of, I'm just trying to be charming and a bit of a dick, and I'm hitting on you at the same time. That's the level of what this is. It's like there's no effort at all.
He has a water pistol that he says is holy water. Like, the film wants you to think that the husband of the doctor is some asshole, so you're okay with his wife leaving him and, like, getting over him immediately. But He's not that bad. Yeah, he's a bit of a jerk, but he's one of the smarter characters because he immediately sees through all this shit.
Yeah.
And then he's brave in the end. Like I think the film goes a little too hard expecting you to hate him, but I don't hate him. Yeah, he's an asshole.
He's your
yeah,
general
he's
dick.
Like, shut up, wife stuff. But yeah, he's not that bad of a dude.
He's a cookie cutter insensitive husband is what he is. And he's not, I mean, clearly they set it up that it's a loveless marriage from her perspective, and he's got it idealized in a certain way. And because topping it off when we're hearing that, when we've already heard the backstory of the death of Frank's wife and with the basketball court in the garden, and we see that Frank had torn up the court and put the garden in there in the end, and he says, man, got rid of a perfectly good basketball court for a garden. And it's the contrast, but I think it's a fair contrast at that point because it showed that Frank was him at one point. The insensitive husband and the trauma broke him. But like you said, Frank is a good character, in my opinion, too, because he is complicated. He's not a good guy. When the wife, because I can't remember her name either at the moment. I watched this 2 days ago. I forgot everybody's names already. I always forget their names except for Frank. When she comes to visit him in the police station, when he's turned himself in, and he's broken at that point, and she's saying, I trust you. And he goes, you don't know me. I'm not good. I'm a trickster. I'm a charlatan. And he's both telling the truth and lying because we know he's a charlatan. He's a broken man who's trying to find purpose in his tragedy. But at the same time, when faced with the reality that there's a rogue spirit killing people, he does try to do the right thing without hesitation because he knows that it's effed up. And then when he finds a connection with this girl, and granted, this is movie theater, this is movie romance. They come together really quickly. I at this point in my long career of watching movies, I'm able to just kind of push that aside. Movie romance.
It's one of my least favorite parts of the movie, especially with how the film ends. We can get to that when we talk about the ending, but I think this film would have been better without the romance entirely.
Possibly. I knew you were going to go there with that. I knew it.
Mainly because of the ending, but it makes her look bad when her husband literally just died the day before all the major events. That's a day that makes her look heartless. So it makes me dislike her.
She's a cheap hoe.
If her husband wasn't involved at all, or maybe it was like a new relationship, I wouldn't care that much about the romance. I'd roll my eyes, just like you're saying, set it aside. It's a movie, romance, dumb, whatever. But it's the fact that her husband died, and the entire film takes place over like 3 days for the most part, besides the flashbacks.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And that's what she decides to do is it makes me really dislike her. She's naive, stupid, and a whore. So
she is naive. She buys into everything immediately. Let's forget the fact that it's true, that everything is true. In terms of paranormal activity, she buys into it like that without hesitation.
Yeah, and she doesn't have like a history of believing in these things. Like if someone is already spiritually inclined or has like it believes in crystals and psychics already, I can buy them going over that final step because there's a background for it. But she's a doctor, and we've never seen any evidence, even just in her house through background stuff, that she has a predisposition to believe in the supernatural and the paranormal.
And she's also naive when it comes to situations, because when it comes to wait, let me get that. I'm tired of getting the names wrong. I want to get the names right. Let me bring it up here real quick. When it comes to I think it's Patty, the accomplice bitch, to just trying to get the name here. Patty. When when she goes to try and help out Patty, she instantly believes, oh, this poor girl was manipulated by the psychopath, by Johnny Bartlett. She was manipulated. When right away, and I don't remember what my reaction was my first time seeing this, to the reveal that Patricia was an equal accomplice to Johnny's murder spree. Were you surprised by that at all?
Well, if it were a modern film, I would 100% have bought in immediately that she was just some victim of the situation, manipulated or whatnot. But because it was a 90s film, I took logic into account.
Mhm.
And yeah, I knew she was definitely on the more dangerous side to the whole thing.
Mhm.
And the mom is crazy, absolutely too, but
But
her
she's right.
actions are more
She did nothing
justified.
wrong. She did nothing wrong. Old lady did nothing wrong.
She's mean, but she's right.
I am not picking my nose, Ariel.
It did look
What?
like it while you were looking up the names. You were like this the whole time.
Oh, jeez. Hey, people, what's wrong with you? First, yeah, I hate you.
Well, when the government fails to imprison serial killers, does it become the mom's responsibility to do so?
Yeah, I mean, they let her out. They let her out. And when we see in the visions later, she was the one walking around blasting people with shotgun.
She might have killed more people before the
Well,
ghostiness than him.
yeah. Well, I guess they counted together on that one. But
Mhm.
when Johnny is in Reaper form, he's the one doing all the heart attacks. But she was. Now, there's one thing that does bother me in terms of the storyline. When it comes to the death of Frank's wife,
Yep.
when they have the car accident,
I think I know what you're talking about.
there's no. The movie doesn't do anything to tell us if it was. Now, I don't know if that's included in the 13 minutes of extra footage. I'd have to check that myself. Maybe it does that because again, I didn't see that there was director's cut on there when I opened it up. All I saw was 15th anniversary. I didn't see director's cut. But when it said that, it doesn't tell us if Johnny was involved in the car crash itself. Because
Mhm.
when they careen off into the woods like that, it's a little coincidental that Patty and Johnny are there to kill. Now it does say that they were after the car crash, they were in the woods for a while. Neither of them died from the car crash, and that they found
Mhm.
that clearly his wife got out. He got out because he was wandering around because he witnessed it, and then that broke his brain, and he went wandering around. So they were clearly buttonenders. Now they might have been there for a while, and maybe Patty came along, and of course, because she had summoned Johnny back at that point after getting his ashes, they found her, and that was the beginning of the murder spree with Johnny as the Reaper. But I'm not. There's not enough explanation for me that they just happen to be there. That
Yeah,
bugs
no,
me.
there's a lot of coincidences with that and how Frank is reintroduced to the story at the beginning of the film, but after, obviously these events, that there's a lot of coincidences with that. How did the crash happen? Like you're saying, was it their fault or was it
Now,
just an accident?
He was drinking.
Yeah.
So
It's incredibly unclear. Why was she targeted as the first one after Johnny was, brought back from hell? Because he does say he escaped from hell. He got out of hell. So
yeah.
he
Well, they at the end of the movie they do tell us that Patty used a bunch of Ouija boards
Mhm.
to pull him out of hell and then get his
Right.
ashes.
But I mean, yeah, that's when he comes back. Why did they target her? And it is pretty coincidental that the husband of your first target is the guy who ultimately takes you down in the end without, any explanation for why that happened. And why didn't they kill him? Like, if he was specifically searching for them the whole time and on a revenge mission, that's fine. But he's completely forgotten up until the end of the film that it was
I
Johnny's.
can understand that's like PTSD blank out. I can live with that.
Right, but it's just the fact that his wife was the first victim.
I'm okay with
It's
that.
a stretch.
See,
And
that doesn't
why
bother me.
wasn't Frank killed?
Because he probably ran away, and from what it looked like when we saw it, at least in that image we see, Patty and Johnny were reveling in the first kill again. Because that I assume at that moment she has just summoned him back, and that this is them probably out and about for the first time. And because we see them later on, because there is enough evidence that when they're killing, it's orgasmic for the both of them. And they really get off on it, especially when they're doing it together.
Well,
So
they are right next to each other, though, and it's not like there's trees in between them. We see Frank laying down, looking over at his wife, who's on the ground, and they're within, I don't know, 7 yards of each other.
I can buy they're caught up in the act and in the carving of the 13 on her forehead, and just they don't see him. I don't mean they don't see him, but he doesn't register to them. That I can buy into that. I can buy into that.
They were clearly walking around though, because they went back to the car to grab the switchblade.
Yeah.
The blade. And so the likelihood of them coming across him, since he's right there, is very high. I just feel, because like every other killing spree we see of them,
I can
like
see your
in
point.
the hospital, they're blasting everyone they see.
That's the initial. Well, that's the initial one. And that leads to what I'm gonna say. This, when it comes to the way Johnny and Patty kill, it's chaotic, because when it starts, the dude who's the doctor's yelling at Johnny goes, "Well, I guess you're gonna be number one." I think their whole thing is that they are chaos, and a little bit chaos incarnate, and there is no rhyme or reason to who they choose to murder. It's just, we're going to choose you and you're going to be dead. And when it came to Frank, I'm going to lean into it. There's only, all I have is when they're doing something like that, they're so involved in it that he wasn't an option. It was the woman, it was Frank's wife. And then when he ran off, and now maybe Johnny just came back. I mean, now I'm headcanon in it. I admit that. And I can see your points. I'm not saying you're wrong. I can see your points, and they are legitimate. But maybe Johnny just came back, because we've seen it when a ghost first comes into a spirit is not going to pass on. There's a little bit of I'm still trying to figure out how to work this shit.
With one exception that I despise.
Well, Frank. Okay,
Frank. No, not him. That makes sense. Okay. That's not who I'm talking about.
Frank would know how it works.
Yeah. No, I at least be familiar enough to know how to start things. Yeah, that's not the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about the editor. When she died, she immediately knows that it's Frank's fault, starts screaming at him, but still goes up in the light corridor. Frank specifically says, "Why didn't you choose to go up there?" She's not choosing. She's yelling at him. She's not making the choice.
I think she just gets sucked in. I think it's like an Event Horizon thing where she's on top of it. And gets
everyone would start to be sucked, but it's portrayed in the rest of the film that it's a conscious choice. Like
I still think she should have gone to hell. She was a bitch. She should have gone to hell.
Yeah, but I really hate that one. That's inconsistent with the rules, and I think that is one of the bigger problems with this film too. Because the impression I got when he first mentioned, hey, after a certain amount of trauma, some people can see beyond. And the impression I got from that was, near-death experiences, perhaps physical trauma, and you're half in, half out of the veil. And that is the justification that I could really buy for why he was psychic to this level. But then the end of the film counteracts that with, it really is just a traumatic event. And that just...
Well, she had a near... what's her... Let me get her name. I think it's
physically traumatic, though. Not like, I dodged a bullet.
Lucy.
Lucy.
Well, she did have somebody grabbing her heart. I mean, multiple times.
Yeah.
So I can buy her having perception adjustment when
just the dialogue there made it seem more that something bad happened. And I feel like it would have been a lot better if they'd been consistent with that rule where it's near-death experiences where you're half in, half out of the veil that gives you those abilities.
I think it's the way I interpreted it as you have a traumatic experience involving death, and if you're that close to it, it alters the perception. Frank clearly in the accident, he nearly dies in the accident, and his perception is shaken enough, and in that moment he sees shit going on, and then he sees it. And Lucy getting it, she had her heart grabbed 2-3 times in that night. I think that's enough.
She got penetrated by a ghost.
She did, and
she liked it.
Yeah. But I can understand what you're saying, though.
It's the dialogue more than anything. Like if they had said, I nearly died. So that makes sense. But the dialogue was contradicting what I was seeing.
Listen, as good a movie can be, there are always
absolutely
hiccups and it does for me. It doesn't change the overall lore. To me, the lore still makes sense. And I appreciate the whole using of like sacred ground and stuff like that. I like that. I liked it at one point when Frank is now deciding to try and help people. He looks up and they're far away from the museum, and he can see the column of the ascension light. I like that and that kind of stuff. So I like the rules that they set up. And you're wondering the whole time, what does it look like when you're going to go to hell? Well, we do get that at the end.
Yeah, we do see that.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't necessarily along the same lines of it contradicts the rules, but I'm very confused about how at the end of the film, Michael J. Fox was able to rip her soul out of her body.
That's a little strange. I also was a little.
It's not like he grabbed her heart and crushed it like Johnny's been doing throughout the film. He just like ripped it out.
He kind of just got a hold of her spirit, and as he was getting sucked in, pulled it with him. That's the most I can get it. Now there are things about the movie like. First of all, just talk about the cast some more. The fact they had good old John Astin, the original Gomez Adams, as the judge. I loved Arlie Ermy as the drill sergeant. Having him be in that basically out of Full Metal Jacket, that is to me also one of the highlights of it. That is one of the highlights. And it showed you how a proficient spirit can manipulate the ectoplasm, which plays into, it makes sense then why Johnny's Reaper scythe is so effective. And I loved it how after, even though I wish that his drill sergeant hadn't gone out so basically.
I needed to see the one-on-one fight for a couple minutes.
Wanted more. I wanted a real fight between him because I did like it the way G. McBride's Cyrus and Stewart, when they were fighting with the Reaper and wrestling it around with it in the sheriff's office. I thought that was great. We got him, we're fighting, and that's really good direction by Peter Jackson to have two scenes going on at the same time, one on a different perception level than the other, and everybody cleanly following good direction, good performances, are pretending one isn't happening or pretending that they either can ignore it or that one isn't there. It's really good cross section scene, and you get a good moment. I think we got him, junk, and everybody fighting. But I wanted, like I said, I wanted more to have the drill sergeant fight Johnny in Reaper mode. But then I did like it how Frank was able to pick up the M60 and to start and dual wield the M60s, mowing him down. Like, yes, I mean, we wanted it from the drill sergeant, but it was still good that Frank did it. It's a hero moment, and I like hero moments. I like it.
It made sense. Yeah, I could absolutely buy that happening.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact then he is fighting with Johnny, and then it gets it goes from being just fighting the Reaper to him versus Johnny, and it gets more real because then suddenly it's a frightening thing. Johnny Bartlett, he's still killing as a ghost, and then he gets the flashes that his wife was number 13 and what it all means, and then it becomes personal. And I like it how as we start the third act, and I know we're doing a weird one the way this guys, we're jumping around. You know how this works. We're going to do it the way we want to do it. But we go to the third act, and the tensions are high because now we realize that Johnny Bartlett is I don't want to say the main villain because Patricia is as much a villain, and so and in a weird way, Jeffrey Combs, FBI agent, he's a villain, but because he's psychotic. I mean, it's so I almost want to say his intentions aren't wrong because from all angles, it looks like Frank is involved in this in some way. But then because he's a psychotic nutcase who went too far into the occult, he then crosses the line into kidnapping Lucy and ripping open when he rips open his shirt and he's got all the scars and shit on there. I've been to the roads of the whatever.
I'm disappointed he didn't keep his iron.
His lead vest on.
I wanted to see that play into the plot. Like maybe the Reaper tries to kill him and like bounces off and he just starts giggling. But it's just in one scene and it's gone. I think it would have been fun to have that play into the plot. But yeah, his inclusion in the film was absolutely wild. But yeah, he's justified to suspect Frank.
But when he goes into the insane, I'm okay with it because then it's okay, fine. We've got people fighting ghosts. We've got a psycho chick with a shotgun and a knife. Everybody's running around. We're trapped in a hospital trying to get to a was it consecrated ground,
Mm-hmm.
so we can get. I like that idea that they were trying to get him to the consecrated ground and force him.
Yeah, those are very common paranormal rules, so it wasn't anything that the audience was unfamiliar with or needed to buy or understand. They could just say, "Yep, consecrated ground's what we need," and the audience is right on board with that. So it made sense to me.
Yeah,
it's a common rule.
But then the way he goes out, the way Jeffrey Combs goes out when Frank turns the corner, here comes Patricia with the shotgun, and he just falls through the floor, and she fires, and it blows off his head, and then it's just the ghost head. That's like, yes, I love that. And then now he's going to haunt the sheriff, and that I feel sorry for the sheriff because he doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think the sheriff deserves that. What'd he do to the FBI agent? He was the nicest one to him.
Yeah,
putting up with his nonsense.
Yeah, but the whole to go back to I'm talking about the acts. The first act, information setup, it's all done well. I don't feel like anything's forced upon me. Second act, where the tension is building and everything's kind of coming to a chaotic moment where what is Frank going to do? Frank now, everybody thinks he's the bad guy. It's kind of that hero journey low moment. And then at the end where it's okay, now Lucy's number 42 or 41, and now he's going to decide to try and save her. In a very, I like the whole out of body experience stuff. As we said, it makes sense that he would do it. First of all, he was going to ace himself, which I think was pretty the hardcore action moment. There is like, okay, he's, but it was also how broken he was because it's not delved into, but you got to realize in the moment he wants to help so badly, but he's also so broken that he is willing to just give it all up in terms of living. To be dead, because the line from the judge making living on death is no way to live. I mean, and they don't. I know they don't spend too much time on the psychological aspects of this, but
it's enough to understand it. Though
he's
clearly tortured by the death of his wife, and he doesn't remember what really happened. So a part of him might suspect that he's to blame for it. That's a lot of guilt and trauma to deal with, and then being unable to make a living. Finishing the house was obviously a metaphor to him for his relationship with his wife. And all of that I think was done very well subtly, like you're saying. Like they didn't delve into it, but it was enough that I could totally buy him using the gun or being willing to, because he's a charlatan, but he is a good man who's trying to help. As soon as he knows about the Reaper, even when it's with that random dude in the bathroom who he's never met, at least I don't believe they've ever met.
No, it was rando, complete rando.
He was already ready to fight, already trying to save that guy's life. So he's obviously a good man, tortured. So if he finds a way to heroically sacrifice himself to save the day, he's more than willing to do it. And that's why I love his character. It's very, very complicated, but that's also why I really hate the ending. But we'll get that there in a minute. But yeah, him being willing to use the gun, I think, is set up very beautifully, very subtly. Like this film, like we've said, it's a Halloween movie, but it's not a dark Halloween movie. It's definitely more on the comedy side than the horror side. So delving into it too much would have changed the genre and been conflicting tonally, but they did it just enough that they could keep the comedy aspects with this added depth to it, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and you're allowed to be the lighthearted stuff, but then you understand we're not ignoring the actual human element of these things. And when she stops him from ganking himself to say, listen, no, I'm a doctor, we can stop your heart, we can slow your heart, you can have an out-of-body experience, and there's a time limit. And I appreciate the tension that he almost beats Johnny, but then the time limit's up, and then we have to figure out another way. And as we already talked about, it's a legitimate way, grounded in normal paranormal circumstance solutions. Get the ashes of something that's demonic to consecrated ground to either purify it or move it forward. But then you have once again Lucy's naivete when she thinks bad things are happening to Patricia, but at that point, we're already suspecting that there's stuff going on there that ain't kosher.
Well, with that, suspecting that, does that reframe your understanding of the beginning of the film before the opening title when Johnny's clearly attacking?
Well, I don't understand that opening sequence personally.
I think it was one of the initial ideas of the film, was clearly where this story was incepted.
Yeah, but but that's in the moment. That's not like when she first summons him. Clearly, that was in that moment, or at least, well, it doesn't. No, it's in that moment because she gets cut and then Lucy comes to visit. So that's at the beginning of the movie. So it's not like Johnny was out of control. The only purpose I can think of that is to try and throw off suspicion that Patricia is psychotic and to have the reveal of her being psychotic into that. I don't know.
Ariel in chat is pointing towards the theory that I have. I think it was kinky
role-playing?
for him. Yeah. And
I wouldn't put it
and the
beyond her.
mom is just like, you will not have sexual relations with my daughter.
Well,
she kept the line she was saying, I think makes more sense with sex than anything.
That's the thing. I mean, we could look at the Johnny Patty relationship. Clearly, he groomed her because she was a teenager and he was basically in his 20s. She was groomed, but she was also already. You're not going to be that groomed if there's not already something wrong with you. So
there's a foundation to it.
Foundation, but their relationship is a literal perfect pair of crazy people, and in their own degenerate, demented, psychotic way, they do love each other. And that's the thing, because at the end, when Frank is blown out of his body again, he grabs, and with the questionable ability of pulling Patricia's ghost out of her body as he's getting sucked in, Johnny willingly goes after her. He doesn't let him. I mean, because let's talk. We haven't done this movie yet, but we're going to eventually. In like the end of The Mummy Returns, when Imhotep and Anaxunamon are fighting after they're done fighting Digital Rock in the temple, and what's his name? What's his character's name? The hero's name in that one?
Brendan Fraser's character?
Yeah, what's his name? I don't remember suddenly. Crap. Well, Brendan Fraser. Let's just say Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser and Imhotep are being pulled down to hell by all the souls, the angry souls, and Anaxunamon and Evie are there, and they're both saying, "Help, help." And Evie, without question, pulls him back up, but Anaxunamon lets Imhotep die, and Imhotep had done everything for her. They weren't really in love. She cared about herself more. But in this case, just as an example, two true psychopaths. Johnny was in love with her. It's weird. It's insane, but he loved Patty because she was his perfect psycho soulmate, and he was willing to follow her up in the corridor. And I loved it how Frank understood that, and it's showing relationships can be used against you, and the movie does a good job of that. And Frank understood that, but it showed us that the movie had given us enough foundation that it's believable that they would do that. 'Cause I do love the moment when when Johnny and Patricia have Lucy captured, and and Johnny's telling her, "Okay, let's kill her," and she's going through the selection of tools to kill. They're on this weird wavelength. It's just no. Yes, the pickaxe. Now, where she got the pickaxe? I don't know. Why is
what is that doing in a hospital?
Where's her pickaxe there?
Well, and then her line, what was it? I'm in the mood for vivisection with a pickaxe.
I don't know. I think the absurdity at that point is like we're going full absurdity because she's just going like the pickaxe. But it works, and they built a foundation, and the way that it to me it's an unconventional victory. The way Frank is able to use that against them, and then I really do like the summation of them going to hell, where the worm innard literally goes wild through them, and it honestly it was a little Raimi-esque, if you ask me, little Sam Raimi-esque.
I could see it, and those effects look great.
Oh yeah. And then the worm pulls it down, and I do like it how we get a shot of heaven. Just it's a small snapshot, not heaven itself, but people once they've gone to heaven. She McBride's character, he's finally got rid of the afro. He's in not 70s closing more. He's got the cigar. He's been wanting the whole movie. Stewart's not a nerd, but he's all hot and he's all clean cut, and the chicks
popular with the ladies.
The ladies gets what he wants, and we get a shot of, I believe Frank's wife was named Emily. Get a shot of Emily telling him, "Go live. It's okay. You did nothing wrong. You can let go of your guilt because you saved lives this time. You didn't know." So I like that. And now the final scene, which you have a problem with. Go ahead.
Oh, it's actually the scene you just mentioned that I have the
Oh.
problem with.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Okay.
in tandem with that final scene, but I think this film would have worked a lot better if you cut out the romance entirely because it makes her look like a bitch, and have him stay dead because the justification they
Really?
used, oh, it's not your time, and they send him back. That isn't built with the foundation of the film. It doesn't seem to coexist with any of the other rules. Why does this happen with him? It's just such a weird thing. And
They said the authorities have dictated.
I know,
so
but like, why? What is with that? We need a little bit more information about that. And it just feels forced. It feels incredibly forced because the work is done. And he shouldn't be in love with this woman after 2 days. But the other aspect of it, with the FBI agent dead, yes, the sheriff likes Frank, but he was already willing to arrest Frank before the FBI agent showed up. There's no exonerating information.
There's also Frank committed some crimes.
Mm-hmm.
He
broke out of prison.
He assaulted police officers. Now, let's be honest. Them cops, they ain't the sharp. When they are opening fire at him in the museum when he is not armed,
that's wild. That was a little
crazy.
too over the top for me.
I mean,
the sex scene with the mummy is hilarious.
That's funny. That's funny.
That part's great.
Yeah, I like it when they don't move.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, but it's yeah, these are definitely cops from Springer. These are Keystone cops. These are not good police at all. And as far as the soul balls, I guess he
learned some tricks in hell. I can buy that he is twisted by hell, so there might be more going on with
because he figured out how to manifest himself as a reaper, because that was a full skin. Because remember when Frank beats him the first time, he has like a distorted face on. It isn't Johnny's face. It's a complete transformation into Reaper mode, which is more because in Reaper mode, he's very dangerous. When he's normal Johnny mode, he's just like any other spirit. Yeah.
I feel like there is some manipulation that happened in hell, some twisting of his spirit, or just being a certain level of evil. I mean, that's a pretty common thing in paranormal mythology from pretty much any religion or whatnot, and TV shows that if you're extra evil, your spirit is able to manifest. So poltergeists are a different class. Like there are classes, and I think serial killer kind of gets in a good class.
He escaped, Ariel, because we get at the end of the movie that Patty had a bunch of Ouija boards, and she basically created a pathway for him back, and she had his ashes, which was basically would be an anchor for him.
I don't get how keeping the urn closed. Was it an iron urn?
I guess it's a here's another. There is a little hole in the lore here. Johnny gets enough battle damage, and at certain points, he seems to need to regenerate in the urn because when
the urn rules are weird. No one else needs to operate under those rules.
Well, it's his ashes, I guess, because he's the only one in the movie that had ashes. Everybody else was buried.
But if it's an iron urn, I could buy it a little bit more. I can't tell. It doesn't look. I mean, like it's a little discolored, grayish, and it could be. But why would she keep him in iron?
Well, not so much iron. I don't know if it was iron. It's the place where he's protected and he can stay hidden. I don't know, because clearly now.
Well, then why is he forced into it when John?
Well, that was my question. When Frank breaks the painting, I guess Johnny was still weak from their last encounter, and he needed to retreat back to the urn to heal up, because maybe being Reaper mode is taxing. Now, there's not enough lore given to us of why Johnny's rules are a little different in some cases. Because now I can understand to your point about strong emanations or making some evil, because when we are looking through the eyes of dead husband, when Lucy goes back to the house in the sanitarium, that place is a massive pool of psychic evil right there, because it is the center point of the killing spree. So I can, to me, that there's a reason that's like that. And that's where Johnny could be at his strongest, or where he's safest. But there are still some rules about Johnny that aren't clear. Why does he?
Yeah, it's often contradictory, and
it's small things, but it's something that I was thinking about watching it with a critical eye the other day. But I can. as the guy who likes romance just about anything, I can forgive movie romance. I can forgive the movie romance in this.
The romance that I got more out of was the romance with his wife, like seeing him having changed the basketball court back into flowers, the regret with that I think the film would have been better if he'd stayed in heaven and reunited with his wife. And then
I can understand that
scene,
perception.
we followed the doctor putting her life back together, trying to clear Frank's name, but ultimately deciding she can't. And he has this terrible reputation, but at least she knows the truth and she can go forward with, maybe because we know at the end of the film, she has the traumatic experience, so she can see ghosts. So she picks up the work for him in a little bit more positive way without, the whole charlatan aspect. I feel like that would have been a lot stronger because she comes out of the film stronger, more knowledgeable, more hopeful, less naive, but still mourning the death of her fucking husband. And he's able to
really stick it to you, isn't it?
It really does. It's 2 days. He's not that much of an ass to justify that behavior. And then Frank gets to reunite with his wife and live happily ever after, really. I mean, in heaven, but still, I
guess
feel like
that's a version of a happy ending. See,
that's much more heartfelt to me, much more fulfilling. The romance is stronger because they had a life together. Frank knew Lucy for a grand total of 2 days. That's not a romance. So I like that. I'm
okay with the schmaltzy romance. I like the silly ending, just because I like to see. I like what I like about it is I like the point that Frank is now healing, and he's able to go on with life, and he's going to take the advice and move forward. Now I will take your track and say I would have preferred and I did think this the other day when I was watching it. I did think that, maybe not have them together right away, but hey, would you like to have dinner?
Yeah, and especially in the epilogue where it's clearly some time's passed, I could accept that. That would be fun.
You could tell time's passed, and I will give you time has passed because Peter Jackson has attention to detail. Their wounds are gone; they're not banged up anymore. And whatever charges were leveled at Frank clearly have been dismissed off camera because the sheriff's not there to arrest him, and he in fact wants to work with him to do some sort of crazy spirit novel book shit. But I would have preferred a near immediate after of let's have dinner. And now with him saying I'm ready, that's the expression of I'm ready to live again. I'm ready to take a chance again of let's go have a real dinner, not the fake dinner at the medieval restaurant with the fake. Well, it was real yet fake at the same time. You know what I'm talking about? Where she was talking to her husband. A real thing like that. Let's do that. That would, I think, have been a more solid, less goofy ending. But I think they just wanted to get Don't Fear the Reaper in there and have her with the blanket. They just wanted to get that in there at the end. I think they that, you know what that feels like? That feels like a studio note at the end of give us a sappy ending. We need a sappy ending, guys. People like sappy endings. And the fact that I'm mostly okay with the sappy ending kind of proves that. I don't hate it, but I am with you. I would have liked something a little more legitimate, not so
bittersweet. I think make the greatest endings because that's what people remember.
I hate bittersweet. I freaking hate bittersweet.
No, there's so many great examples of it. Like even Lord of the Rings has a bittersweet ending. Like people are so sad at the end of it, partially because it's ending, but a lot of people cry when Frodo gets on the boat. Like, yeah, it's happy, but he's going to die. And like, I think that's what I mean by bittersweet.
Fuck Frodo. Get the fuck out of here. I've said that
but
before.
No, bittersweet are my favorite endings because
I know
I don't want anything too perfect that doesn't make sense. If you can set it up right that it makes sense, absolutely. But bittersweet, I think it shows the consequences, and that's what we talk about stakes a lot. I like seeing consequences to stakes.
I can accept bittersweet if it's constructed well, but I don't like to go full bittersweet. I prefer something like with a layered, like there's been loss, but
layered is what I'm talking about. Like not like full on depressed. I don't know what would be a great example of a bad bittersweet ending, but layered is what I'm talking about, where there's give and take. It's mostly good, but there is this,
the balance of victory and what it took to get there, stuff like that.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about, and I think we would have gotten that if he had stayed dead.
I will disagree on that. I don't. Well, it may. I agree. It kind of feels right in a certain way that him being dead would have really worked.
They needed to justify him being alive better, though.
I'll give you that. I could see your feeling on that, but to me, it's enough that with the establishment of death is not a way to live. Now that you have rid your guilt over death, now you can live and move on. So I'm okay with it. But we're also now attacking this from a writer's perspective too. Let's make that clear. Jed and I are now looking at this. We're not criticizing the movie. We're saying, what would we have done if this was our sandbox? How would we have done this a little bit differently for our conclusion, to give us a true feeling of a more solid ending? And that's just an average of things like that. Anyway, all right, so there we are. Danny Elfman soundtrack. It's a Danny Elfman soundtrack. It's kind of just there. It's kind of just there. Okay, so it was my movie, so I'm going to score it first. As we started off in the beginning, I think it's well acted. Everybody was pretty much perfectly cast. I don't have a problem with anybody's performances. I think the direction is Peter Jackson goodness. I don't think there's a wasted scene, honestly. Because we didn't complain about it dragging. We didn't complain about wasted time.
It's about 2 hours, right?
Just under, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty tight for 2 hours, and like you're saying, not feeling like it was wasted time at all.
Let's see. Should be on the back of the case here. God damn it! Not enough light. I can't. It's too blurry. Can't see it. Actually, is that 2 hours 35 minutes? No, it's on 2 hours 35 minutes. No.
It's an hour and 40.
Okay.
The base cut, and then the director's cut is almost 2 hours.
Okay. Oh, Dale. Yeah, because it said 13 minutes extra. Okay, so it's under 2 hours, essentially under 2 hours. Yeah, so it doesn't drag. Peter Jackson got a great performance out of everybody. The effects, like you said, they hold up, and it feels real, and it's enjoyable. I like it. It's fun. I never feel like it's one of those movies I don't feel like I wasted my time. Hell, I would not have spent money on this if I didn't like the movie. It's on my shelf. So there it is. I give it a solid 7.5 out of 10.
Well, I'm actually fairly close to you. I think this film was a lot of fun. The direction, the visual effects, all of that was absolutely fantastic. And an impression that I got out of this that I was surprised to see is I noticed a lot of its influences on future pop culture. A lot of other films and TV shows taking homages from it, from the out-of-body experiences to the consecrated ground. Lots of those in Supernatural. There's a lot from Supernatural that I can tell Eric Kripke really liked Frighteners. I absolutely see it.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And there's a few other ones as well with, I think there was something from the Matrix I caught that I could feel like inspiration. Yeah, there was a lot of things where I'm like, all right, this is clearly a very popular movie, at least among Hollywood, because I can see the influence it's had on the industry going forward, and I think that's definitely something in its favor. I absolutely recommend this film. There are writing issues with it that, of course, bother me more than the majority of people out there. Things I would have done differently. Some inconsistent world building that's definitely a problem. And yeah, the sappy ending. The ending is my least favorite part about this. I think it really fails to stick the landing for me. So I give this a 6 out of 10.
That's fair, and that's good for you. That's okay. All right, there we go. Another one in the books. Jed, what do you got for me next week?
Well, it does feel appropriate the year that Deadpool and Wolverine came out during the Halloween season to watch a film I've never seen before, but is absolutely a classic that saved Marvel from bankruptcy. I'll be choosing the original Wesley Snipes Blade.
Oh, Blade 1. Hell yes. I like Blade 2 better. But you've never seen Blade 1. Oh, it's a good. Blade 1 is solid. Blade 1 is solid. It's good. It sets up the lore. I think we might have to get Dre on. He came on for Blade 2 when I did it once. We're gonna have to redo Blade 2. If you haven't seen Blade 1, you haven't seen Blade 2, have you?
No. I haven't seen any of it. I'm not a big fan of vampires in general. I do like the idea of slaughtering vampires by the dozen, so that might appeal to me more. But yeah, just vampires in general, I've never been a huge fan of. So I'm hoping that Wesley Snipes' badassery will overcome that.
Dude, the badassery. Dude, the badassery is an 11 out of 10. That's the badassery. And Chris Christopherson, R.I.P. Chris Christopherson, just passed away. The badassery. Blade is good. Blade is good. Yeah, I think we can get Dre for next weekend. He loves those movies. And there's only 2 of them. F Blade Trinity. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. All right.
These movies need more credit because, like I said, they saved Marvel from bankruptcy. Black Panther was not the first black superhero movie ever.
Nope. I love Blade 1 and Blade 2. They're a lot of fun. So this is good. I'm looking forward to this one. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that. And I'm pretty sure Dre will be on board for this one. Anyway, so there we go, guys. Another one. Thank you all for joining us. If you guys stick around, you will be forwarded to Ball Busters Gaming Night on this channel. A lot of us doing perspectives, but I'm doing it here. So I'm gonna forward you when we're done here. It's Among Us in about an hour and a half. Watch us basically yell and scream, and more so than usual. I mean, there's going to be a lot of accusations and very, very close to gamer words uttered in about an hour and a half time. So hang on to that. Well, I'm not. What do you mean? Not answering the quick, Ariel? We're at the end of the show. I have to eat dinner. Okay, the Frighteners more success. It's a cult classic. It's essentially a cult classic.
I just looked up the box office versus budget. The box office was 29 million and the budget was 25. So not great.
It's a cult classic. It is definitely. I mean, you don't get a 15th anniversary edition if it's not a cult classic. I mean,
I think that poster's terrible though, because that's all I saw before watching the movie. I didn't even watch the trailer,
this is the Blu-ray cover. The actual. Have you seen the original poster?
That's the only one I've seen.
The original poster is basically Johnny's face pushing itself through a wall. That's the original poster. Now this is an anniversary. This is a 15th anniversary edition where they're going to put everybody's faces on the cover. So that's what that is. The original cover, the original poster, is pretty good. What more questions? And nothing. Harass me later, Ariel. We got to end the show now. All right. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be back next week with more of this goodness. Until then. Take it easy. Have a good night or day wherever you may be.